Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to my second attempt to record this podcast. I am here with Marguerite. She is a creator of Move to Tacoma and currently on sabbatical. I have Marguerite on this episode because she's making six figures doing referrals, which is absolutely amazing. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, I got to know who you I got to know who you are because we're both helping out Shelly with New Agent 365. You were the presenter last week. I was the person first week, and I got to hear your story, and it's absolutely amazing that you are doing that well with referrals. That is something that I've thought about, but I just really didn't think it was possible. And then, so here you are, you're doing it. But let's start. How did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate in 2005 before the crash. And yeah, that was obviously not the best timing. But as I mentioned to you before, I wasn't really killing it anyway. So the crash was the least of my problems in the beginning.
What got you to, you're telling a story about you bought your first home.
Yeah, I bought my first house when I was doing one of a zillion different odd jobs that I had after high school. I was hanging sheetrock and bought my first house with an old high school friend. And he said at the end, he's like, "You love real estate so much, you should be a realtor." And we shared the same friendship circle, the same sphere of influence. And he took that risk. He's like, "I'm going to lose half my clients, but I think you'd be good at this." And I tell him all the time, we're still really good friends. I'm like, I owe you the whole thing. And he's not in real estate anymore, which is funny.
Really?
No, he does. He actually supervises the call center that I worked at when I was 20.
Swapped, huh?
Super weird. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's fast forward. Referral business, because I think that's the one I really want people to understand.
Totally.
How did you fall into that?
It happened really gradually. And actually it's kind of related to the crash because for me, I worked in a city in Tacoma where we were impacted really badly. We had the highest rate of foreclosure in the whole state. 68% of the sales in our county were either foreclosures or short sales. So it was a hellish time to be a fair market seller. The competition was slashing prices. And I switched companies. And I just told my managing broker, I was like, "I'm not doing it anymore. I'm only working with buyers. Don't even print me a sign." And he was like, "They're there." But I think he thought I'd come around. And I never did. The last time I worked with a seller was I think 2009 was my last listing.
Wow.
I've never even hired a professional photographer. I've never done any of it. It was the olden days. So after that, I had this situation where I had a blog where I attracted a lot of business online, called Get Real Tacoma. That was my first blog. And I was getting emails sometimes from people wanting to list their houses. And most of the time I ignored them. A few times I tried to refer, but it never seemed to work. And it just felt kind of overwhelming. And I was complaining to my broker about something or another. And he was like, "Well, I don't understand. What are you doing with all the sellers?" And I was like, "I just mostly don't respond." And he was horrified. And I'm horrified I'm embarrassed, but it's been long enough now. It's been a decade. I feel like I can share my truth. And it was just fear and confusion, right? It wasn't that I didn't want to do it. It's just I didn't know how. And so I started to share that so people know, you can start from the worst possible place and recover.
Well, listings with short sales were just hellacious. And short sale did not describe the length of time that it took to finish one of those.
No, it doesn't.
To be there organized and everything.
Well, and so many of the people that were going to have to sell, they were going to have a really difficult conversation with their agent. And so at the time, I had to learn really quickly. He really pushed me to see it as a potential revenue stream and to take it really seriously. And so, he yelled at me, kicked me out of his office with a stack of referral forms and was like, "Get your life together," which I'm grateful for to this day. So the first thing I started doing was figuring out who specialized in short sales and started referring people to agents who would be excited to receive the referral. And that was one of the first lessons that I learned about referrals. And one of the reasons most of our referrals aren't successful is because we don't take the time to figure out, what does this client really need? And who is the person who's not only good at doing that thing, but is really excited to do it for them. So we don't want the agent to feel like they're slumming it, doing us a favor for 75% of their usual commission, right? Like you want someone to be like, oh yeah, this is what I do. I can do this in my sleep. Happy to do it. Great. Yeah. Pay you a finder's fee. No problem. So that was the big lesson. Once that clicked for me, that recognition that every client needs a different specialist, like it really started to come together. That was really the beginning.
So a lot of people are sitting there going, yeah, you skipped a lot of money, but that pain was big enough that it wasn't worth the headache, right?
Well, that came later. You know, in the beginning, it was just, okay, I don't work with sellers because it's just, it's not a joke. I mean, you shouldn't joke about things like PTSD, but it felt kind of like that. Like I was in so many living rooms with people crying, you know, I didn't ever want to be in a living room and talk about someone's listing again. It wasn't interesting to me. Buyers were interesting, sellers weren't. So to me, there wasn't that feeling of loss with sellers. But as time went on, and you know, I launched another website called Move to Tacoma, which was very successful at generating clients online and getting them to reach out to me. And so I got to get pickier and pickier. So first it was like, well, I was a buyer's agent in Pierce County. And then it was like, I'm buyer's agent, but in downtown Tacoma and the immediate surrounding neighborhoods. And then it was like, well, buyers in these neighborhoods, but just people I like. And then, and after a while, like the referrals had gotten to the point where I could almost, I didn't think of this actually. I have a financial coach that looks at all my stuff and he was like, couldn't you just make like 25% on everything and just do more referrals and work less? And I just remember thinking like, you're so dumb. Like you're not in real estate. Like that's not how it works. But you know what? Like sometimes we need someone outside our framework to tell us something very obvious. And I just started thinking about it and I was like, well, if I sell 25 houses a year, if I want to make this kind of money from referrals, I mean, I guess I just need to have 100 referrals close a year, which by the way, I just want to disclose, I have not yet reached that goal. I've been working towards 100 closed referrals for, 3.5 years now, and I haven't hit it yet. But one of the things that was really interesting is in the beginning, I'm very disorganized and inconsistent as a realtor. I mean, my paperwork was always great for my clients, but when it comes to prospecting, I don't want to give the impression that I'm like a super systematized, awesome, I'm not. Like, I kind of work in batches and I get really focused and do stuff. And then I kind of phase out for a little while. So I've never been a person that tracks everything to the dollar. And I just want to, again, reassure people that you don't need to be that kind of person to do this. But when I did, one of the things that happened is I didn't track my sent and closed referrals in the beginning in 2017 when I started. And so I kind of had this goal in the back of my mind, 2 years ago, people will really take this business plan seriously if I made $100,000. I need to start tracking the money. Because at first I was closing deals. And then after that, I just kind of wasn't paying attention. So I went back and forensically found every deal that I'd sent and every deal that had closed and then tracked, where did these people come from? Which website, which contact method? Was it Yelp? Was it a friend? Was it a past client? I kind of started putting it all together. And I realized I'd already made $100,000 in real estate. I made it the first year when I was still transacting. Wow. I had $100,000 in referral income that year. And I just didn't notice because I was still doing my own deals. And so to realize not only is it possible, but I've already done it. And I had dipped because I'd kind of taken my eye off the ball. I'd taken a sabbatical. I moved here to Portland to kind of take a break from all of it. And I was living off of the referral income, but not treating it like a business. So a couple years ago, I busted out the spreadsheets, did that analysis, and now I track everything. And I can tell you at every point in the year exactly where I am with my sent referrals, with my closed referrals. I know how much time it takes from the day a referral goes out to when it closes on average. I can project my income, based on what's happening this month. These are things that I never dreamed would be possible. And I don't have that transactional fog of war that I had when I was, selling 25 houses a year, which is a lot less than a lot of people. And for me, that was the limit of my sanity. I talked to folks like our mutual friend, Shelly Zavitz, who's doing 50 deals this year. And I'm like, no, thank you. That's a lot of emotional support. So now, one of the things you said before about to generate 30 maybe feels like a lot. How would I generate 100? And the truth is once you don't have to work them, all you want to do is generate them because they're going to be somebody else's clients.
So you were doing 25 homes, which that is a lot. I think the NAR statistic is only 3% of agents do that much.
Yeah.
So you obviously figured something out when you were producing for yourself leads.
Mm-hmm.
How were you getting those leads?
They were probably half and half. So half sphere of influence, past clients, and half online.
So you had already kind of broke the code on online.
Yeah. And I think like if I have a superpower within the real estate business, it's attracting clients. That I would say is the thing I do better than most people. And that's how I've been able to like sort of wrap my head around this business. And I think all of us have that ability to figure out like, you know, what is easy and joyful for us to bring clients in the door. But that's a process, you know?
So was that Facebook ads? Was that Google ads?
I've never done a Google ad successfully. Like, let's just say that it's still the holy grail for me. No, most of like it's like an interlocking web. So I have my website moved to Tacoma, and you know, I have a Yelp profile with 20 or so reviews. I have a Google My Business page with a few dozen reviews. You know, I have a blog on my website that I update regularly and I distribute to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Like I am on the internet as my business, right? And so like, it's like everything sort of feeds into the site. What I want is for people to use the contact form to ask me to introduce them to a realtor. That's the call to action. So the only thing is to just think to myself, the people that I want, mostly people relocating to Tacoma to buy something, you know, what do they need to know? And that's what I think about all the time. So if you have a different niche, like maybe sellers in Portland with a price over 750,000 or something, you know, like what do they need to know? What are they thinking about? What are they worried about? What are they looking forward to? And then like speaking to them. That's kind of the way that I look at it.
So what percentage of your referrals are in Tacoma?
I would say right this last year, I know I'm guessing a little. I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me. And I assume you mean the closed referrals, not the sent referrals.
Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the sent referrals is definitely Tacoma. But this year, I think I've had 6 close out of Tacoma. It's an Oregon, a Las Vegas. You know, there have been some different folks around the country. And those, I've had 50 close so far this year. So I guess 10%. That's 10%, right? I'm a realtor. I'm not good at math in my head.
3%. We can do anything by 3%.
I tell people that all the time. I can calculate 3% of anything.
So your blog, do you think that you could recreate this blog in another city?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I mean, like I have friends that have copied it in other cities. Yeah, definitely. For sure.
So how do you do the handoff? Because I know one other person that they kind of do an online lead generation. They do more Google and Facebook, but the thing is it comes in through them and then they hand them off.
Yeah.
How do you do that handoff so that you don't lose them, I guess? I know you have to have a good partner on the other side, but they're like, oh, why am I listening to you? And
you know, when I first started thinking about doing this, I was out drinking with some real estate friends after a conference.
So many good things come from just a story that starts like that.
Moments. You need to go to conferences as soon as the plague is over. But, you know, I was saying we were a couple drinks in. I was like, I think I could really refer out a lot of these deals. And my financial coach had this idea. And she looked at me and she was like, you're going to lose all your clients. As soon as people figure out that you're not working with them, they're going to stop calling. You need to be careful. And I was like, oh, and for the first year or so of referrals, that was in my head, that agent fear that I think we all feel. Right. And so it was like a bait and switch. You know, it looked like I was a regular agent. And then you would call me and I'd be like, so I'm busy, or I'm only taking so many bars. I would just kind of like zhuzh them over. Right. And then after a while, I was like, this feels weird. And I was like, what would happen if I just wrote on the website, you know, if I'm not the right person for you, I'm going to find you the right person for you. You know, I'm a real estate matchmaker and I've been doing this forever. Like I'm the agent that knows all the best agents. You know, I tried some different verbiage in different bios and it worked great. And now my contacts are, hi, I love your website. I've watched your videos. Here's what I'm looking for. I kind of want, like I had a woman this week that said, I would like an LGBT friendly agent. You know, I had somebody last month say, I want a Black agent. You know, I have had people say, I need an agent that has already listed at least 3 houses in my neighborhood this year. Like, I want someone who's you know, like, people are smart, like they know what they want. And it's very freeing for the client, I think, to be able to express that. And I think our blockage as agents is and we already know this. You've been in a zillion years, you know this. We say yes to things we should never say yes to. We say, yeah, I'll drive to Estacada and I hate Estacada. And this is going to be 40% less than the commission I'm used to making. And I'm going to do it. And that it's never good. So if we don't have those boundaries, I think a lot of the agents I refer to are really glad that I take the time to find out what they like doing best, and I try to just send them those clients. And that's the key.
What?
That's the key, is that connection.
How many agents do you have in Tacoma that you're working with or would refer to?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I just want to share that while I primarily refer to my own brokerage, kind of an agreement that we have, I don't exclusively refer to my own brokerage. That's also something that, like, I'm very clear with my managing broker. Like, I refer to the best person, and especially for stuff that's, because we're very urban, like stuff that's like outside in the county. Like, I'm always wanting to find people at other brokerages. So within my company, I kind of had 20 favorites. And then there's like a variety of people that have specialties that I really love that are outside of the company. And in Seattle, I work with people at all different companies. You know, they're just north of Tacoma, so, and outside of our county. So like, it just kind of depends. But this last year, I just ran a report, and it was, I think 29 different people that I sent clients to. Although the one I sent the most to, I think I sent him 13. My niece is a realtor, so nepotism rules. I think I sent her 10. Like.
So
a lot of those people were one or two referrals.
So I want to go back. You mentioned that you track how many you send, you know how many it takes to send to close, you know the average time. So what is your sent to closed?
I'm so glad you asked. So I just ran these numbers. So last year, it was 33% within the year. So within the calendar year. The mental number I've been using to project has been 50% within 12 months. But that's not super helpful when you're business planning, right? Because especially if my sent referrals are increasing, like, they're not going to close within the calendar year. So when I did the numbers for last year, it was 33% closed within the calendar year. This year so far, it's 40%. So it won't quite hit that 50, I think, by December, but I have a feeling by next year I'll be more in that zone. And then the average time to close is 121 days, so 4 months. And my volume, because I started tracking that this year like a proper agent, is 23,500,000. The median price in Tacoma is 430, which is, I think, pretty average for the country.
So let's see here. Have you looked at 18 months or 24 months? Of like when you send a referral, if it closes, have you, because I know some people say they're going to be out a year. So any of those people, have you tracked a longer period of time to see if they do close?
I had a client that was a list buy that closed in January this year, and it was a referral I sent in 2011. Oh yeah. This is the other thing, and I have this conversation very directly with like the agents I refer to. I haven't been using referral agreements. I'm going to start this year because my brokerage really wants me to, because it helps with administrative stuff. Yeah. Like, I don't think they're particularly enforceable if you have a bad faith agent on the other side. That said, my managing broker would really like to see me using them. So I'm implementing a system to start using them this year. But in the past, I haven't. And I've just told people straight up, this does not expire. If it takes you a year to get this done, if the client changes their mind, rents for a while, gets back in the game, yes, you still owe me a referral fee. Like, and there's nothing I can do to enforce it, right? But if I find out that person like didn't pay me, like, I'm just not going to refer them any more deals. Like, that's the beauty of having like kind of an abundance mindset and also a really big volume of sent referrals to work with. I haven't had anybody that I know of ever take advantage of that.
How do you vet the agents?
So I'm lucky in that in the last few years, I've been given a training role within my brokerage, which has 165 agents. And I train a lot of agents actually all over the country. So I get the opportunity to work with people. A lot of my training revolves around how to identify and attract your ideal client. And I meant to like shamelessly like taking notes during those conversations because it's like, you know, the more you can get agents to talk about what they do best. And, you know, I do take notes, you know, and then when I'm in a pinch, like sometimes like I had a favorite client who's an investor who does like big multifamily. And he's like, I've got this piece of land in this neighborhood that I don't specialize in. I don't know very well. He was like, I need someone to list this piece of land for me. And I was like, ugh, John, I don't know. Hold on. Let me go look in the MLS. And so I just ran like who had actually like represented sellers listing land in that neighborhood in the last 2 to 3 years. And there was an agent in my office that had done 4 pieces of raw land in that neighborhood. And I was like, great. Let me introduce you to Greg.
You know, I remember about almost 6 years ago, I had a client who had been looking at homes, and then he called me up, and what he wanted is he wanted to be on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at some condos in Lake Oswego, and he goes, I just want to get up out of bed. I just want to be able to raise up and look at water.
Relatable.
I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. And then, so he called me one day. He goes, Mike, you know, how comfortable are you with floating homes? And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna lose this client. But I was truthful. I said, I don't know floating homes. They're a different animal. Yeah. And the thing is, I know, and this kind of what you were saying with Esticade and all this is agents want to be everything to everyone. There's this meme where it's like, Pitbull, I'm Mr. Worldwide. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not the service to your clients. And that fear of loss is like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Well, you're figuring it out on their dime. And I know that's the way some people are, but I told him no. I was like, you know, I really don't know it, but I can find you someone if you need them. He goes, well, I'm glad you said that. I actually did find an agent. And I feel honestly, that was a test from him to see how I would answer. Yeah. And I answered him truthfully. And I was like, well, I probably lost that agent or that client because he's going to work with this agent and then not call me to list his home. Yeah. A year later, he called, he goes, okay, we're ready to sell our home. And we went, our team went out there, the listing agent went out there to see it and talking to him. And he sat down, he goes, well, I just know Mike is the right guy because of this, this, and this, just because I'm honest, because of all these things. Yeah. I was talking to the listing agent after we left on the team, and he goes, you know what? He had glasses. He had the set of glasses from another real estate company down in the basement. I was talking to him. He knows tons of agents. Mm-hmm. And he said this later, he goes, I picked you because I know that you will always do the right thing. And that fear of loss makes us do things that we shouldn't do and get into areas that we shouldn't get. But my belief is you do the right thing, you'll come back around. And this is kind of what you're talking about is you don't have to be afraid of that.
Well, and the one thing I would layer onto that is it's easier to do the right thing when you already have a gushing pipeline of clients who love you. Yeah. And you don't feel like you're not going to make your mortgage payment this month if you don't figure out floating houses really fast.
Exactly.
Like, and that's the whole thing is it's, you know, to have that confidence and to refer to a specialist or to allow your client to move on when they go outside your geographic range. If they have met an agent who's more well-suited, like to have that confidence, you really need to be stable with your prospecting.
I agree. So are these clients one and done? Like you refer them off and then?
This is the question. So it's still kind of like remains to be seen. You know, I mean, I joke like I've been sober off of transactions since May of 2017. And some clients, yeah, like especially when I moved out of Tacoma, right? And I wasn't prospecting to my sphere for about a year. I really took time off. I definitely, and I know other, you know, there are other realtors in my friendship circle, other really good realtors in my friendship circle. And some of those people did like reach out to those agents for things that they needed. And I saw that go down and I was like, well, you know, people know what you do and they're going to make their choice. And, you know, then it's really interesting. One of those clients, actually, she used another realtor And then a few months later, she needed a referral for a family member, and she called me. And I realized, like, I think that the product I offer is a little different than the average agent. Although the average agent could also offer the product I offer, which is my discernment. You know, and if we think of ourselves as the product and our knowledge of our own industry and community as the product, you only have to persuade people that you're good at your job, that you understand it, and that you know the limits of your own skills and abilities, right? And to really, like, if they reach out and ask you questions, to be like excited to help them, even if it's not exactly transactional, right? If just to be their real estate resource. And yeah, like, let them know that you're the agent that knows all the best agents, but if they go with someone else, to just really, like, let that go. And I think that is, I don't know if I actually answered your question. So some of them go, yeah. And some of them come back over and over again. Like, I have one client I've referred out 3 times.
Do you talk to that other agent and say, look, if this person uses you, I've heard some agents say, well, look, it's one, it's up to you whether or not you keep them, and then we're done after one. I know some agents, no, it's infinity. If I give them to you, they do anything else, you wouldn't have got them if it wasn't for me. 2 different kind of mindsets. And with you being a referral base, it seems like you'd want to be more in like, this
is delicate, right? And this is what I've said, because a lot of the referral partners I know are people that I'm in touch with, they're people I hang out with, you know, we have a social relationship, and I've just told them, like, this is how I make my living. So yeah, I would, but I have no claim to it. I can't force them to give me that downline referral, right? So what I say is, like, you know, if you can at least, what I say is my preference is I'd love 10% on anything after that this person does with you. And if they transact multiple deals within that first year, I want them. I want the referral on all of them, right? But I'm also willing to have a conversation. And that's the thing that I've tried to cultivate with everyone is, like, I want you to feel like this is a good deal for you. So, like, reach out to me if you have a question. So sometimes people will be like, Marguerite, I'm having to give up all this stuff, and, like, it's not my fault. It's not because I'm a bad negotiator. It's because this deal went straight to hell. And, like, I transacted a bunch of transactions. Like, I know that can happen. And it's like, okay, so, like, what should we do? Or it's like, hey, I had a woman the other week who my clients were looking for, like, a $500,000 to $700,000 second home cabin. And she's like, hey, and this is not someone I have a relationship with. She was like, so your clients are buying a $150,000 piece of land. And I was like, she's like, they're going to build their dream cabin. I was like, no referral necessary. Like, thank you for your service. You know, like, I want this woman to help my future referrals. She seemed really great. Right. So I think I wish I could have, like, a hard line rule, but I think that the real skill, if you want this to work, is open dialogue and, like, finding something that works for you and your referral partners, and, like, keeping the conversation going.
I think on another point is, you know, the people who are going to make sure that you're getting your due share will get more referrals in the future.
Totally. I mean, and the people that I work with the most, like, they definitely know that. Sometimes it's more, the people I'm more worried about are those people that are getting, like, 1 or 2 deals a year. But ultimately, and I've said this before, so I guess I just need to, like, say it very intently here, is, like, I am responsible. Like, the client chooses their realtor, and if they don't choose me, like, I have work to do. So, like, one of the things I've stepped up in the last year is increasing my sphere of influence in past client marketing. Like, I'd gotten a little blasé about that. And now I'm doing, like, a monthly postcard and note cards and, like, being, like, you know, a little more traditional in, like, my outreach, right? Like, I'm not just relying on, like, oh, they'll probably just see my social media posts, right? Like, I'd gotten a little lazy. So, like, prospecting to new people online that know me, like, doing that in one way, and then directly, like, staying in touch with people, you know, the 185 precious souls in my life, you know, like, that's a different strategy. And, like, taking responsibility. Like, if I want them to call and ask me, I need to remind them that I still do this.
How, I think a huge problem in this field is that agents do not communicate after they've received a referral. The other agent who receives it just kind of goes, okay, well, I'll go work it. And then the agent who gave it is like, what's going on? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that causes some problems. And then it starts to cause some questions like, hey, what'd you do with that referral? Do you suck? Or are you closing the deal and not paying me? What do you expect from those agents that partner with you to keep in communication with you?
You know, I've been given the opportunity to teach how to get and give more referral classes in my brokerage. And I was a little passive aggressive about it at the beginning. I was like, so you could just like maybe email me sometimes, or, you know? And then I realized like one of my favorite like self-help gurus is Byron Katie. And she says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. And the truth is the thing that makes real estate agents really good at getting deals done is not usually a skill for like communication and follow-up. Like, bless our hearts. Like, we're not good at it. So like, I've had to take the follow-up into my own hands. Like, now that I'm tracking, I have a spreadsheet, I have a system for following up and just saying like, hey, what's going on with this? And then they can say like, oh, that person flaked, or hey, they decided to buy in a different city or whatever, or we just didn't have rapport, or they're closing next week. Thanks for checking in. The agents that I work with most often are now kind of in a rhythm with me where they'll text me like, hey, good news, so-and-so's under contract, or oh my God, this one's been a real doozy. The other thing I tell my referral partners is for 25%, I don't have to know about the drama. Like, if I can be instrumental in helping ease or relieve the drama, but if I am going to be involved in the stress of the transaction, I need more money. Like, I'm not getting, this is a finder's fee, not a transactional mental health support fee. So, and sometimes it's the agents I'm closest to that I have to kind of set that limit. But yeah, I don't want to hear people complaining about the referrals ever.
Give me better referrals.
I'm always open to that request. If you can articulate what makes a good referral, I'm always here to hear it.
So you found most of your agents. Do you do many referrals outside of your area? Now you said you had 6, and that's a good number.
Close.
So how many did you send outside of Tacoma?
Probably closer to 15. So it's the same close rate, right? Like, but yeah, it's just, it requires a little more work, the vetting of the agent. Because oftentimes I don't actually know a person when it's outside those immediate 2 or 3 counties around my turf. So I have to Google, I have to call, I have to check in. Although I'll tell you, like, the most time I have ever spent trying to find a realtor, I think was like 90 minutes. Like, and it felt like forever. Like I had to call like 3 people, like, and then I had to call a friend and be like, who do you know over there? Because usually, if you know people around the country, you can sort of forensically do it, right? So like, okay, this part of LA isn't the part of LA that my friend in LA works, but he must have someone that he refers people to that he likes, and then I can call that person and see if they're a personality fit and see if they have the enthusiasm to work with my client. And if they're like, oh girl, I don't work with buyers under 500,000, such an LA thing to say, you know, like, who does? Who do you love that would be willing to and excited to work with this person? You know, like, just follow the chain until you get to a good person.
How do you trigger that BS meter? Because, you know, real estate agents are good salespeople. Oh yeah, I work there. Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, no problem. Let's do that. Yeah, just give me.
You know, most of the time, like that situation where I was calling multiple people is pretty rare. Like, we leave pretty big online footprints of our closed transactions these days, you know, and like, there's also kind of an art to reading people's reviews. So if I'm looking through Yelp reviews, like, I'm looking for like key things about the person, like, for example, like my work wife in Tacoma, like the person I worked most closely with, she really loved working with sellers. And if you look at our Yelp profiles side by side, they talk about her and they say, the professionalism, the skill, the attention to detail, her taste, right? Like, she just has it all, and it's all sellers, right? And then my profile is like, she's so fun, she's so high energy, she looked at all these houses with us, she didn't care that we were first-time buyers. Like, you can tell by reading the reviews our niches. Like, she's a high-end listing agent, and I was like a buyer person. And I think, like, as realtors, kind of trying to read between the lines on those reviews and figure out, like, what is it about this agent that the person liked? And is that what my client needs?
Speaking of niches, give your little talk on niches.
Well, it's all about having a gushing pipeline of clients that love you. That is always my thing. And you only get that. You can only stand out if you do something specific, especially online. Like, nobody wants to work with a generalist. And the thing that I always say is, like, when I started saying, like, I work in downtown Tacoma and the immediate surrounding neighborhoods with buyers, it's not like people still didn't call me for everything else. they did. Like, they don't stop. Like, you know, it's to articulate what you do best doesn't necessarily exclude everything else. You don't even have to day one stop working with everyone else, but just start telling people what you do better than anyone else. And if you don't think you yet do something better than anyone else, work on it. Like, develop a niche. Like, get to that point of confidence where you know that if anybody calls another person for that thing, you feel a little sorry for them. Like, get that level of like confidence.
So how does the new agent get that?
Oh, you mean like a brand new agent?
Yeah.
You got to transact. And that's the thing. Like, this comes up a lot in the niche class. New agents will be like, what's my niche going to be? And I'm like, I don't know, pal. You got to do a couple years of deals first. And this was when I started, I lived in a rural community, suburban rural, at an old school brokerage, you know, that my friend's dad owned. And I started working with investors, raw land, like double wides on 5 acres. Like, I got most of my deals like through Floor and my family, and my family is nuts. So like, my clients were all of these like crazy land investor people. And I thought, oh, that's my niche. You know, a year and a half in, I thought, this is what I do. I'm going to be the queen of Spanaway real estate. Thank God that was not my destiny. You know, at a certain point, I was like, I don't enjoy this. Like, I don't want to work with people who don't want to know or see their neighbors. Like, I really like the city, and I moved. Like, I moved downtown, and I said, okay, this is the life I want. I needed to learn about condos. I needed to learn the difference between a condo and a townhouse. I needed to learn all the subtle differences of the micro neighborhoods within that area, right? Like, I refocused because the clients I wanted to be with were in a different place. But when you're new, what you think you're going to be good at, what you think you're going to be love, you have to have experience before you can know what that's true. So like, my managing broker is always trying to get me to figure out like, hey, how can you help the new people figure out their niche? I'm like, nope. Like, you got to work the single wide, you got to work the condo, you got to do everything. And if you can get other agents to loop you in, like if you can like work for like a reduced like, you know, take 10% on a deal to like back somebody up on a type of property that you wouldn't get exposure to otherwise, go for it. You know, like, I think that's a great way to do things if you can get people to trust you.
It's experience. It really is experience, getting that any possible way.
I would say for the youngs, and I guess I shouldn't say the youngs, although I suspect like with the under 40s, I'm a 41-year-old, so I'm on a cusp. But like, if you have an advantage coming into this business of like an understanding of technology and social media strategy that's maybe more innate, you have a skill you can bargain with experienced agents with. So to just say like, I will support you, I'll redo your YouTube page and your Facebook page, and I'll show you a process for marketing your listings with Facebook ads. Or if you have those kinds of skills, and if you don't, I'll set up your signs and take them down for all your open houses. I will do the crap work, like loop me in, you know, like that's how I mean, unfortunately, like if you want hands-on experience without having to, like you said before, learn on the job, like that's how you get it.
I agree. Well, we covered a lot. What did I miss? What did I miss in this journey to become a referral only agent?
I think like, first of all, if there's anyone out there listening that also does that, does this business, I would really like to hear from you. It's lonely. Hit me up on the LinkedIns. But I think like my theory, unproven at this time, because I don't know very many people like me, is that you don't have to do it the way I did it. If you're a person that generates your business through sphere of influence or Floor or other methods, I don't think it really matters what prospecting method you use, as long as you're generating more clients than you need or more clients than you want to transact. So I think the key is to just like know what the number of it, for example, like if you're just trying to like try this out, knowing like my ratio hopefully is probably pretty similar to everyone's, that 50% within a year will close. So if you want to have an extra deal in referral fees, that would be 4 closed transactions. So my commitment for 2021 is I'm going to send out 8 referrals this year, and I'm going to take the time, I'm going to track them, I'm going to treat them seriously, and see if I get 4 closed referral fees this year. And like the magic of a referral fee is like, you're going about your day and your little account pings and there's just a check there. and you weren't at the closing table, you weren't crying on key day, there wasn't a last minute inspection nonsense, or maybe there was, but you didn't have to be the one dealing with it at 9 o'clock at night. You know, like those referral fees, like once you start to get them, they're very addictive. So like, just give yourself a chance to, you know, get hooked.
What does your average day look like?
Ooh.
Semi-average.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have an average day, although I think there are trends in my year. So
Okay.
right now I'm business planning. I'm like going over everything from last year. I'm trying to figure out what worked, like what channels everybody came in and how much did I spend on each channel. One thing I've noticed about myself is I don't turn it up to 11 like I should. Like, oh, it looks like Yelp worked last year and I spent $120 a month on Yelp and I got 4 closings. Like, maybe I should go ahead and go to 300 on Yelp and see if, you know, like if that seems like a good thing to do, or, you know, like, oh, when I release a blog twice a week, it doubles my website traffic. And when I double my website traffic, it seems to double my contact forms. Like, I guess I should be blogging every 2 times a week. You know, like this is the time of year when I do that review. And then in January, I write tons of content. I do it all in a batch and create a bunch of videos that I'll roll out throughout the year. And so this time of year, I'm working more and thinking about my business more. The rest of the year, it's more just like responding to inquiries from people, having a Zoom call with a client. And like I had a Zoom call this afternoon with somebody who was telling me they're relocating from Florida and what kind of agent they wanted. And I made a recommendation and we looked that person up online and they were like, yeah, have her call me. Like that's usually what the day is like. The other day, Thanksgiving, and I had a phone call. I could tell it was from Google and I answered it. And it was a lady that needed to list a house and buy 2 investment properties.
Lovely.
Took about 10 minutes. I guess that was my day off.
Well, I saw your, I was on your website, moved to Tacoma, and on the sidebar, it says, you know, put your information in here. I won't stalk you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You could, I have my phone number. It says call or text me. I won't stalk you. And that's true. I don't have any follow-up. Like, for example, if someone emails me and says like, hey, I need a realtor, and I reply to them and they don't reply, and I reply to them again and they don't reply, I don't put them on a mailing list even. Like, I really don't bug people. I really think like, and maybe it's like I've never been like a closer, which is one of the reasons I work by attraction and do all the blogging and the video. I don't like to ask for the business. Like, I really like it when people just show up and ask me to do a thing. So if they've changed their mind, like I don't need to chase them. This is back to having a gushing pipeline. So you don't have to go into any zones you don't want to. Maybe that's my own weakness. Like, I don't know, maybe a really good sales trainer would be like, you're leaving money on the table.
You know, what I always tell people is that this business is to live your perfect life.
Yeah.
And this is what we were talking about right before we started, is just that why do this if you're not enjoying yourself? Why do this if you're suffering? There are a million ways to do that. And that's why I love that you're on the podcast to show one of those million ways that you can do this business. Not only are you using a blog and social media and those platforms and reviews, but you're also doing referrals. And you're happy. Look at the smile on your face.
Yeah, no, and I really think I'm in my golden zone. I'm like helping people find really good real estate agents. I feel very high integrity. Like it feels really good.
And so I love just trying to show people, because I think it is permission to do things a certain way. I wholeheartedly believe you could buy a stack of pins and just hand out pins and make it in real estate, as long as you're consistent.
Yeah, it's true.
As long as you do something, even though you said you were not systematic or very consistent, there is a consistency to you and you get things done.
It is my 2021 New Year's resolution to become a consistent person. So thank you for seeing that in me. It's my goal.
On your website, last question, I think, you said you have a contact form. What does that contact form say? It
says, contact me, and it has an empty field for name and email and subject. And actually, I had an inquiry 2 weeks ago from a client relocating from Southern California who was an SEO specialist. And I was having the referral conversation, and then I was like, I don't suppose you freelance. And he was like, I don't, but I love what you're doing. Like, I'd love to take a look at your stuff. So he had a call with me and we looked at my analytics, and he's like, you know, the biggest thing I could tell you is like your contact form is just blah. He's like, would you just make that like a little more mobile friendly and like move that CAPTCHA? And he wasn't like, you need more flowery language, you need a better call to action. He didn't say any of that. He was just like, it's below the fold. Like, this is amateur hour. And I was like, oh, yeah, great. Emailed my web guy. Hopefully that'll get fixed soon. But yeah, I don't think there's like a secret sauce. I mean, adding call to actions is always good. Like asking online, like saying like, hey, you need a realtor? I can help you with that. That's always good. But I don't think the contact form itself is, maybe I'm wrong. If anybody's listening who's an SEO expert, find me on the LinkedIn. But I think it's working.
Well, obviously it is working. And that's the thing, is we get so stuck being perfect. And one of the things that I have on Roaring Agents is that the toolbox fallacy. It's one of my course lessons, whatever you call it. And we get stuck thinking this has to be perfect. I have to have this tool. I have to have this resource before I can move on and do the next thing.
I think that there's a huge industry of people that, you know, they're mining the miners, right? They make so much money off of making us feel insecure about how our tools aren't good enough and we don't have the right stuff. And if we just had the CRM, or if we just subscribed to this lead generation service, like suddenly we would be successful. And I just think it's crap. I think you're right. Like just being consistent in something that is energizing for you to get clients. That's the whole thing. And most of the rest of it is noise.
My buddy became a real estate agent. He's like, oh my God, everyone's trying to sell so much stuff. I was like, yeah, sorry. It is what it is.
No one's easier to sell to than a salesperson.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you if they want to connect?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn as Marguerite Martin. Obviously, moved to Tacoma.com on all the social media channels. And I have a personal, or a business lady website, consulting website, margueritemartin.com.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And maybe we'll touch base in maybe 6 months or so and do a part 2.
Find out if I got consistent this year.
There you go. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.